Well, the leaders of Turkey, Russia, France and Germany are holding a summit to discuss the long-running war in Syria. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan is hosting the four-way summit in Istanbul. In his opening remarks, he said the eyes of the whole world are on the summit. Erdogan is looking at ways to preserve a deal reached between Russia and Turkey last month on Idlib. This is the last province remaining under militant control. The summit is also set to explore a political solution to the war. Erdogan and his Russian counterpart, Vladimir Putin, held a bilateral meeting prior to the summit. All four leaders were also seen walking in a garden. Well, joining me right here in Tehran, author and journalist Gearóid Ó Colmáin. Thanks so much for being with us. What do you make of this summit being held by Turkey?
Well, I think the first thing to say is that this is a summit in Istanbul, and that is in itself highly significant in the sense that Turkey has emerged in this war as a major player, a major geopolitical player in the world. And Turkey is extending its influence in the region. The second thing to say is that the United States is not participating directly in these talks, but rather exerting influence through French President Emmanuel Macron. So you see a shift in geopolitics towards Eurasia happening here, and the attempt to find a Eurasian solution to the war in Syria. It should also be pointed out, of course, that the hypocrisy that we've seen since the start of the war is de rigueur here as well. We see that, for example, the terrorist group Hayat al-Sham, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, is being described in the Western media as the rebels. So the rebels are predominantly this Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, and we are told that they are linked to Al-Qaeda. And that follows the general narrative of the war, which is that the rebels are linked to Al-Qaeda or intermingled with Al-Qaeda or covered by Al-Qaeda. In other words, the rebels are essentially Al-Qaeda, and the nomenclature changes all the time, but the facts remain the same. I think Russia has shown that it is the only power here that has the capacity to lead the region towards peace. So Russia's role is to try to appease Turkey, to let Turkey exert more influence in the region on the basis of multipolarity. We also, of course, see some glaring contradictions here. Quite recently, the French were supporting the Kurdish rebels in the country, and were sending special forces to the region to back up the Kurdish rebels. So I think that the French diplomacy will be very much trying to mend relations with Turkey on that issue. Another contradiction here, of course, is that the Western media are complaining very much about Erdogan's policy of repressing journalists in Turkey in a period when journalists and activists in the West are being repressed at an unprecedented rate. Websites are being taken down, content is being deleted by Facebook on orders from top US and European officials. So it is, again, highly hypocritical to be complaining about press freedoms in Turkey when press freedom is being repressed in the West.
Well, thank you so much for being with us, Mr. Gearóid Ó Colmáin, author and journalist right here in Tehran.